All right, FightHype.com. Your man Sean Zittel holding it down from the illustrious, elaborate, high-tech headquarters here in Las Vegas. Joined again by Brooklyn's finest, our guy Hans Themistode, of course, from Fight Hype and Boxing Scene, the two industry leaders. What's up, Hans? We got some more fight talk to do, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. It's Friday, can't beat the weekend. So looking forward to some more fight talk with you. And I know we got some good topics coming up. So let's get it on, man.
Any clapbacks for some of those haters in the comments, man? You got any ammo for them today? You're not paying them any mind.
Nah, I don't really pay people too much mind. You know, I when I don't want to say on a limb, but you say that Spence is gonna win, and then everybody says that you're like dumb and retarded and stuff like that. But it's all good though, it's all love, man. So hopefully I don't look bad with those predictions, but let's make it happen, man. It's all love.
Yeah, man, and like I said before we got started, I want to give you big props for not just giving into groupthink. Okay, everyone feels this way, so now I have to change my opinion. So, props on that, brother.
I appreciate you, man.
But yeah, man, we'll get it going, man. Canelo and Charlo is not too far away. I feel like this fight is really sneaking up on us quickly, man. Um, Crawford and Spence was this, week after week. People are counting the days, and Canelo Charlo's just sneaking up on us. It's here in like almost 2.5 weeks. So to get started, beyond who you think will win the fight, what do you think of Charlo's energy? Because he is much more respectful of Canelo by far than he has been of any other opponent. What do you think about it, Hans?
Um, I mean, Charlo, at least to me, anyways, Charlo isn't like a super disrespectful guy. Like not a consistently super disrespectful guy. If you come at him, he's gonna come at you. But during his build up with two fights with Brian Castano, I don't remember him like going crazy and going out of line. During like the weigh-ins though, he tends to go a little tends to go a little crazy. But against Castano he was fine. Against Jason Rosario, he was fine. So there's been like a couple instances where he's just like over the top. To me, I think a lot of fans or a lot of people in general kind of take the issue that he had with Tony Harrison and they kind of like exaggerate that, or Charlo going off on somebody on an interview and things like that and be like, he's always this super hot guy and upset all the time and stuff like that, and he's gonna act like that at press conferences. But press conferences, he's actually, I don't know, from what I see, he's actually pretty chill. So yeah, I don't think so.
Well, he's Mr. Keep Running Your Mouth, meaning you gotta be running your mouth to get the response out of him, right? So and Canelo is the opposite of that. So he's not giving him any ammunition to go off on. But I do think that I look at it a little part, and I'll say this before I give my thoughts on it. I've talked to great champions about how Charlo was in New York and in LA, and they told me, they liked what they saw. They saw a locked in fighter, very, composed and very focused for the biggest assignment of his career. They liked what they saw. And unlike me, those are guys who have been there and done it before. But
Yeah.
so, but now that I've said that, I look at it a little bit like you're not dancing with the girl you brought to prom. That temperament, regardless. And by the way, you said it wasn't until the weigh-in with Castano and everything. I think
Mhm.
that there's a good chance that's the case with Canelo too. Kind of like Crawford with Spence. Once you get to that final press conference Thursday and that weigh-in Friday before the fight, that's when you're going to see the lion come out of Charlo, I think. But even when guys are respectful, Charlo's always had this energy of, I'm going to knock your ass out. I'm going to knock your ass out. And that energy is yet, to show up with Canelo. And that's just nothing wrong with that. But what makes me question it is that's never been you. Part of what made you Charlo and getting to 154 and being undisputed was that energy of, I'm going to knock your ass out. And I've yet to see that kind of confidence and bravado and energy towards Canelo. I'm not surprised if it shows up a day or two before the fight, weigh-in time, final press conference time, like Sonny and The Godfather. I'll wait. I won't lose that famous temper of mine until it's time to lose that temper. So, but yeah, part of me does just wonder, Hans, is he
He
being too respectful of Canelo? This is a guy he's probably kind of been a fan of in the last several years as Canelo's done his thing. He's spoken very highly of him. So I just wonder if he's showing a little bit too much respect to Canelo. What do you think?
Nah, not really, man. I mean, it's not until fight night anyways. I kind of go back to the Tony Harrison thing. Even the first fight, like Charlo was pretty he was pretty respectful, and Tony was going into that fight looking like, a gigantic underdog. I remember Charlo saying that, he's a great fighter, kind of like bigging him up. The second fight, it was something completely different. You look at the Erickson Lubin thing. Erickson Lubin was really on some, I'm coming, I'm taking them titles. And Charlo clapped back at him. Charlo really came back hard at him. So, it's kind of hard to get like you said, Canelo has never been a guy who's gonna like start the trash talk anyways. You know what I mean? But I did find it interesting that what's his name? I believe his nickname is Mama's Boy, Dennis Duglin.
Yep.
He was just like it seems like Charlo's happy to be there. I don't agree with it, but what do you think about that, man?
I've heard other people close around that fight say that exact sentence, like he's happy to be there. So I have heard that, but I mean, of course he's gonna be showing up to win the fight. But again, and then on the other side with Canelo, he's saying some of the basically all the right stuff you want to hear out of a rejuvenated Canelo who looked flat his last three fights. But Hans, I'm wondering, is he at all starting to sound like an aging fighter who's just saying all the right things? This camp's different. I'm more rejuvenated now. My injuries are healing up. I was able to give more in the gym with Eddie. Do you think Canelo's really gonna be rejuvenated against Charlo, or is this gonna be the same guy that fought Ryder, fought Golovkin, fought Bevo?
Um, I think for the most part, I think he'll kind of be the same guy that fought Golovkin in the third fight, fought John Ryder. I think he'll look rejuvenated in like the first quarter of the fight. That's when he'll have like most of his energy and things like that. And then during the second half, he'll stop bouncing on his toes. He'll be that guy who kind of just like plods forward, stays in that really high guard, and just normally when Canelo used to do that, for the most part, he wasn't really catching shot off his gloves. He'd come forward. He would also use a lot of head movement, get out of the way of shots. But now he kind of just like catches shots off his gloves or
That
kind of
head
just
movement
stays.
requires energy. All that.
Exactly. So I kind of think during the second half, I think he'll look a lot like the John Ryder guy. So yeah, I don't think he'll be that rejuvenated, man. I'm calling cap on that one.
Well, that's what I'm getting at when we were talking on the last live, and I said Charlo's going to need a little bit of help from Canelo to meet him halfway if he's going to pull off this upset. Like we talked about with football teams, the better teams got to have some turnovers and things like that. And I think that's Charlo's path to victory. And I do think Canelo wins this fight. We'll get into that in a minute, but I do think what you just described, if that's what Canelo's going to do, come out fresh and looking good, but by 7 and 8, he's already starting to slow down. I think that's what opens the door for Charlo to pull off the upset, because one advantage Charlo definitely has over Canelo, I think, is conditioning. He doesn't get tired. Canelo, even when he's sharper, like against Saunders and Plant, he still has to take a round off at some point. Charlo doesn't. He's a very conditioned athlete in that regard. But I just think that's the I don't think Charlo wins without that version of Canelo showing up. I think if Canelo, if he just shows up somewhere in between the guy that fought Ryder and Golovkin and the guy that fought Plant and Callum Smith, somewhere in the middle, he should be fine. But if he shows up just like he did for Ryder, and all this rejuvenation talk and moving the camp from San Diego to Tahoe is just a bunch of bells and whistles, then Charlo could pull this off. And I don't say that to say, wow, Sean, you're only saying like you're discrediting Charlo before he potentially wins. You're basically saying the only way he could win it is by is because Canelo did something wrong, not because he did something right. He's still gonna have to do a lot of things right, game plan wise. He's gonna have to come on strong down the stretch, throw combinations as Canelo's potentially tiring and just loading up on one or two shots. But yeah, man.
But question for you. I mean, obviously Charlo has a ridiculous gas tank at 154. Putting on those 14 pounds though, in about, I mean, it was probably about what, 2.5. Well, he probably knew about the fight a little bit longer, so let's just say about 4 months. Do you think that the gas tank is gonna look the exact same, or do you expect some slippage in that regard for Charlo though, man?
I mean, he can't afford it. That's got to be one of his biggest attributes to win this fight. Is he just has to be in better shape over
He,
12 rounds than Canelo and have
He
a good
can't
pace.
afford it. He can't afford it, but do you think it will be the same though? Like in your opinion, do you think it'll be the exact same though?
I do. I do. I think he's a pretty gifted athlete. And I think he'll be good to go in the conditioning. Where I do, and now we'll get into kind of our fight, our real take on the fight. I was watching tape again on Jermell, and over the last couple months, I've been saying on the lives, and something about his balance is off to me compared to the elite of the elite, Canelo, Inoue, even a guy like Tank Davis. Emmanuel Stewart said the secret to a great fighter is great balance, and he has good. I'm not saying you don't become undisputed at 54 without good balance, but I'm watching tapes and I'm going, why do I feel like he doesn't have as great a balance as those guys? And it's because rewatching the Castano fight, his base is wide, and his base is wide because even though he's a tall guy, he's not standing straight up fighting. And when you there's a pro and a con to that. When you stand straight up, now your chin's a little bit more up in the air. You can't be as fluid with the upper body movement, but you can fight tall. And if you
Yeah.
know how to fight tall, like Alexis Arguello or someone like that, you're standing a little bit more straight up, but you're keeping them on the end of your shots on the outside. Charlo's base is wide because he's bending his knees. He's bending his knees down, and that's what allows him to have good hooks. And he could go to the, even though he's 6 feet tall, he could still go to the body against shorter guys. He could hook with hookers that are shorter guys like Castano because he's bending his knees. He's a little bit more down here. But trying to fight like that against Canelo's gonna get underneath those shots. Like that favors Canelo. You want to fight a little tall against Canelo and keep him on the end of that jab. And Charlo will show some of the attributes he needs to win this fight, right? He's got legs. He's got a jab. He does. But even though he has good legs, he doesn't hold the center of the ring. Go back and watch the Castano rematch, Hans. Like, even though he's winning the fight round after round and he knocks him out, Castano is pushing him from rope to rope to rope to rope. He's not controlling the center of the ring like Canelo did in the rematch with Golovkin. In that first fight, Canelo was looking like Charlo does against Castano, being pushed from rope to rope, getting walked down from rope to rope. And then what Charlo would do as he got walked on those ropes, taking a page out of Joanne Guzman's book, his co-trainer, he would flurry off the ropes. He'd explode off the ropes. But they were almost a step or two above get off me punches. But because he's bigger than Castano and the more explosive athlete, he could just run him off when Castano starts putting the pressure on. He tries to do that with Canelo. It's not going to work because he gets a little fat on his shots, on his combinations. Canelo doesn't throw as many combinations in his sequences, but he's more compact and more accurate shot for shot. And, Charlo, even when he knocked out Harrison, knocked him down in the second with the left hook, he ate 2 right hands before he got there. He gets hit. And so, yeah, what do you think of some of that stuff, Hans?
It's a pretty good point, but the biggest thing that I kind of worry about with Charlo is when he's exiting, either when he's off the ropes and when he's fighting, when he's probably fighting in the center of the ring, or when he's letting go of his combinations, he kind of leaves his chin out there. Like he doesn't really like bring the shot back, throw the jab, bring it back, throw the left hook, brings it back. He doesn't really do that. He kind of just like brings it back, and his chin is kind of in the air, like so far. And it's kind of hard to like point stuff like that out because nobody's made him pay. You know what I mean? But like I've seen him do it a few times, even in like some of like his training footage. Like he'll just pull straight out and just like straight back in the air. And I'm just like, all right, hopefully he won't get caught with something. But I've seen that. So I'm also worried about that as opposed to him not fighting tall, him getting caught with like 2 shots from like Tony Harrison, whatever. Like, yeah, of course, whatever. But it's just that pull out that he normally does after like a combination where he doesn't bring his hands back up and his chin is just in the air. I'm like, brother, just please don't do that against Canelo, man. That's all I'm saying.
How's he win this fight then? Are you picking him to win the fight?
I am. I am. To me, I mean, look, Canelo is not the same guy. Before I even answer that question, actually, if you had Canelo at let's say like a 10 when he fought Triple G the second time, Caleb, whatever. If you had him at a 10, where do you have him right now? Like
Like
1 to 10. If you had him at a
seven
10,
and a
where's he at?
half.
7.5? Okay, so and you still don't think Charlo will beat him, even though he's at a 7.5 right now.
I'm expecting a 9 out of 10. Canelo.
Mm.
I'm expecting Canelo to be something better. I don't know to which degree, and maybe you're right. Maybe he just looks like a rejuvenated Canelo for 5 or 6 rounds, right? And
Mm.
then Charlo can take over in the second half. But I'm expecting a rejuvenated Canelo to some degree.
So that's uh that's interesting. I didn't really think you was gonna go that route. I didn't think you were gonna actually want. I think you didn't think you was gonna actually think we were gonna see like a rejuvenated Canelo. Um, the way Charlo wins this fight, man, I think a lot of it is gonna play on his conditioning. I think the first half is gonna be extremely tough, extremely tough. I think if he could kind of weather that storm a little bit, and
Right.
look, Canelo's a great fighter, man, but and Charlo is not really a guy who's gonna throw a lot of shots and things like that, but neither is Canelo, man. Hell, Canelo barely jabs. You know what I mean? Like Canelo just goes in, loads up, he brings the shot all the way back here.
He's been doing
Waits
that
for
more and
it.
more lately. I think he's been getting away from a few things and loading up too much.
I'm telling you, he'll load it up. He'll check to see if his mom is in the crowd, make sure everybody's okay. Hey, I see you over there. And then he'll let the shot off. And I'm just like, look, if Charlo can kind of like stay out of the way of those shots, he also isn't really a guy who's kind of like David Benavidez in the sense that when you get to the ropes, that's when he really starts letting off on you. I haven't really seen Canelo, at least not as of late, anyways, really letting off combinations like in the center of the ring. Once you get to the ropes, he starts to go crazy.
Especially
And
if you're moving away from him and not coming towards him like Triple G did in that rematch.
exactly. And Charlo, I mean, obviously, like we saw in the Castano fight, it's like as soon as his back hit the ropes, he was off it. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's gonna give Canelo like enough time to like load up on shots, really get his offense going. And because of that, I think Charlo can win a decision. I think he has the better jab. I think he has the better legs, better conditioning. Um, yeah, I think he has all of that. The 14 pounds is gonna be a lot, but Canelo's not throwing those type of shots like that. And that second half, I really think it's going to be all Charlo in that second half now.
He should be the fresher fighter. They're the same age. Actually, he's a little older than Canelo, but they're the same age. And he's actually
Yeah.
had half the amount of the professional fights that Canelo has had, basically. Hasn't had as many injuries as Canelo. So he's also the fresher fighter, Hans.
Mhm.
And he should be the hungrier fighter. Do you think he is?
Hungrier fighter?
I mean, Canelo's done it all, made all this money. Human nature should dictate that Charlo's the hungrier guy. But I don't know if that's the case.
It should, but at the same time, and I think Canelo is a guy who has like a lot to prove right now. I think he has more to prove than Charlo, and I think that's like pretty obvious. Now everybody's kind of not really bashing Canelo, but a lot of people are saying, all right, he's like at the bottom half of the pound for pound list, or he's really not that guy. Hell, you said he's a 7.5 right now. You know what I mean?
Compared
So
to what he
I think
was, and compared
yeah,
to everybody else, he's still
that's
very,
fair.
very, very good.
For sure, that's fair. So I kind of think that Canelo is the more hungrier guy. And plus he just got on PBC, a 3 fight deal. Kind of feels a little awkward when you lose that first fight, man. It's like, all right, I guess he's gonna try to go into like another rematch or something like that. But I do think he's gonna be the hungrier guy, but I don't think it's gonna be enough, man. I really don't.
I'll say this: if Charlo pulls it off, I think he's cemented as number 3 pound for pound. I think he kicks Usyk out of that spot, and is right there with Inoue and Crawford.
Um, probably. You have Crawford number one and anyway number two, right?
Yeah, although I have no problem if you got Inoue number 1, but I do have Crawford at 1. This is a legit argument, especially based on the eye test, because Inoue's athleticism right now is like it's off the chain.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I do have Crawford number one, but I don't know, man. I think there is a lot of validity to the whole, and hopefully Crawford isn't going to bash me as well. But look, man, he has one great win, man, like one. You know what I mean? So I think that win over Spence kind of like solidified, or maybe it kind of like pushed Crawford's other wins to like another level. You know what I mean? Where like everybody was kind of clowning him for, oh, you beat Ricky Burns or you beat Ray Beltran, Mean Machine, an older Amir Khan and whatever. But then when he does the same thing to Spence, everybody's kind of looking back like, damn, maybe those other guys were really good.
It's kind
You
of
know
like
what I
when
mean?
Matthew Stafford won the Super Bowl with the Rams. It's like now we got to give you credit for all those big yardage years in Detroit that we were gonna overlook, but you solidified it, so now we got to.
Exactly. Getting all them yards and doing nothing. And nothing at all with like one of the best wide receivers of all time. Couldn't even make the damn playoffs half the time, man. But yeah, that's what I kind of think. But yeah, I think he probably would be number three though. I'm trying to like figure out if I could push him up to number two, but probably
I
can't
mean, if he
in a way.
stops
So
Canelo, which I think is such a
come
low
on.
chance because of the amazing chin Canelo has, if he were to stop Canelo, yeah, he could definitely get him to number two. But
Yeah,
now we're just talking craziness.
nah, but come on. I mean, that'll get him to number one, I think, though. If he stops Canelo, come on now, brother. Let's not shortchange my guy. If he if he stops Canelo, he's definitely gonna be number one. But I also kind of think that at least in boxing history, there's been like so many times where like the smaller guy, the more skilled guy goes up in weight and wins those fights, man. I mean, we have like so many comparisons in terms of like today, but even when I kind of look back at, and it's kind of a weird comparison because technically he lost, but technically, because he really did it, when Ray Robinson fought, I think it was Joey Maxim or something like
Yeah.
that in like 1952. Like he fought him at light heavyweight.
Yep.
Technically, if anybody just goes on BoxRec and just looks at the fight, they'll be like, "Oh, Sugar Ray lost by 13th round knockout." He
Heat
really didn't
exhaustion.
though. He was just really really tired, man, and it was just a really really hot day. I think he was winning in 13th round. He was probably winning like 10-3, 9-4, something like that. So the smaller guy was beating the naturally bigger guy. And I kind of just think that Charlo's just gonna do the same thing. He just moves well. How many, if we're looking at in terms of like attributes, how many attributes would you put on Canelo's side? How many would you put on Charlo's side in terms of like speed, power, legs, stamina? I think you'll put more on Charlo's side.
It's a good question. I think accuracy, power, defense, all go to Canelo. He's more accurate. He places his shots. He's a compact puncher. Charlo sometimes is going to get a little fat on his shots.
Mhm.
Canelo's going to be pinpoint on every shot, but Charlo's going to make it up for it sometimes in activity. He'll actually let go of combinations. Canelo doesn't really throw combinations anymore. But
Mhm.
if he lets go of those combinations, Canelo could catch him in between shots with the shorter, more compact shots.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Canelo got better accuracy. He's got better defense, and he's got better punching power. And then hand speed, we'll see, because Canelo still is fast, even though although his hand speed has looked a little more sluggish these last three fights. But
I was about to say, man, I know you're
yeah,
not giving Canelo a hand speed over Charlo. Come on now. He's definitely looked a little bit slower in that regards. I think Charlo has the better hand speed. I think Charlo has the better legs. Obviously has the better stamina. Chin, I mean, you kind of have to give it to Canelo. I can't even remember a time when he got
over
rocked other than
everybody in
fighting.
boxing, pound for pound, that's the best chin in the sport.
Well, let's not exaggerate. Let's not forget about Triple G now. Come on now. Relax.
Hey, it was Triple G who took a step back in fights two and three. It was him who said,
Ain't no way in hell you telling me Triple Canelo got a better chin than Triple G. Ain't no way in hell you telling me that right now, man.
I think so, man. And he's more durable. He's definitely more durable because we've seen Triple G get hurt to the body a couple of times. But that is not your chin, obviously.
For sure. So I just think that either Charlo has more checks on his attribute side or it's extremely close. That's what I think. So I'm rocking with Charlo and we got about what 3 weeks until we find out.
I respect it. I respect it. I think if you're right, you pretty much said the same thing I said, Hans. You said he is the first half is going to be very tough, and he's going to come on in the second half to win the fight. That's how I see it too, with some help from Canelo gassing in the seventh and the eighth. Um,
But do you see Charlo kind of dominating that second half though?
I just see him out hustling Canelo. Canelo loading up on one or two shots, and Charlo's throwing more combinations. And if Charlo's going to win this fight, his jab has to be excellent, and he's got to make great. He has a very good jab. I mean, it's a jab that made Jason Rosario have seizures on the ground, so it's a hell of a jab. But he's got to
I don't
be
I'm
busy and
I
educated
don't
with it.
I don't that was probably his best knockout highlight because I mean I've never seen anything like that. But like the way that Rosario looked after that and the fact that he's lost pretty much maybe all of his fights since then, two body shots. Like when he has lost, he's pretty much lost the body shot. He lost to Lubin with the body shot. I think when he fought Mendoza, was it a body shot? I feel like it might have been a body shot or something like that. But it's kind of hard to say. His jab is so great. He knocked out a guy with a jab, but
It
the
is
guy
a
that he
good
knocked
jab,
out.
man. But I was mentioning earlier, he bends those knees and doesn't, and there's good things about that he does that, but he gives up his height a little bit. And I just remember George. You remember George Foreman on those HBO telecasts always saying, "Don't bend down there and give up your height to this shorter man. Use your jab, believe in your jab, and keep him on the outside. Like."
For sure. But no, I always find, even though it's a true point, I mean, like even when you're one of the first things that you learn when you're just like starting boxing is, don't stand straight up. You know
Yes,
what I'm
yes.
like?
And
Like
even those
bend your
guys I'm
knees.
mentioning that fight tall like Arguello, they do have some bend in their knees.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But I just find it always interesting when, somebody says fight tall, but the first thing they kind of teach you in boxing is get that base right, bend those knees, get some good leverage on those shots. It just kind of feels like, all right, you're telling me to do two different things here, but I know what you mean, though.
Absolutely. But actually, quickly, we got a super chat from our guy Matt's Adventures. Hit us with a 10. That's five
Mhm.
for Hans. That's five for me. Thank you, Matt. Matt's always cool in the chats. Matt's Adventures sounds
Appreciate
like
you.
he's a little bit more on the Canelo side. He says granite chin plus precision counters versus a suspect chin. If I'm betting, I know on who. Fair enough, Matt's Adventures. I don't know if Charlo has a suspect chin, but he was put down before he got with Derek James, before he became a champion. But since he's been had a run as champion, he's never been down. A few guys have buzzed him. Tony did, I think, in round 9 of their first fight. Castano touched him up with some left hooks that made his legs, do a little something. But I don't know.
I mean, I remember that fight. It was before he was a champ. It was so many years ago. I don't remember the guy he was fighting, but even if you looked at it, man, it didn't really look like he got caught flush with anything. It really looked more like a balance type of thing. The Brian Castano fight, he didn't really look hurt to me. It was just that he got caught with a shorter shot on the inside while he was throwing more of a longer shot.
That's
That's
what's
what it
gonna
was.
happen against Canelo, Hans.
I'm just saying, even if it does, he's gonna be fine, man. His chin is not suspect. Like I think he has one of the best chins in boxing, man. He has to.
He's Iron Man. He's Tony Starks. He's Ghostface in '95. Was it?
Facts, man.
Uh, but man, well, it's been about 30 minutes. I was contemplating whether what I think why not, man. We got the people. We got about 200 people in here watching and enjoying chat. I was gonna cut it after 30, just Canelo Charlo talk, but I think we could do a little Haney and Prograis, right, Hans?
For sure. Let's do it, man.
Okay, so you tell me why I'm wrong. I know Regis is a look. Regis could crack if nothing else, and he could definitely hurt Devin bad in this fight if he lands that left hand. If he gets in range and does his thing, but he was hardly able to do that with a much lesser fighter in Danielito Zorrilla, who just with movement and with pop shotting straight right hands against the southpaw gave Regis a ton of fits. Regis won the fight. He dropped him and got the win. But if this guy, Zorrilla, by just pop shotting with the right hand and moving laterally, gave him so many fits, what is Devin Haney going to do to him, who's younger, who should be fresher at 140, who's got a whole lot of other tools besides just the pop shot right hand? Go ahead, Hans.
This is the problem that I have sometimes, man. And Sean is like probably the smartest guy in boxing, man. He's probably the smartest guy. But this is the problem that I have with either Sean or anybody, man. Like they'll look at a guy who had a really rough performance in his last fight, and then they'll just continue to just like, and then when he gets to like a bigger fight in his next fight, they'll be like, "Well, he didn't look so good in this fight. Oh, he didn't look so good right here. Oh, I remember that round." And I'm just like, so my boy can't have a rough fight, man. Like that means he's gonna lose the next one because that's all anybody's been saying, man. Like he didn't look good against this guy who, let's admit it, the guy is kind of a journeyman, kind of sort of, even though his record was pretty solid. He only has 2 losses on his record now, but all in all, he's kind of a journeyman kind of level guy. All right, and Regis had a few issues with him. Okay, to me, Devin is a great boxer on the outside, but when somebody puts pressure on him, I'm not going to say he folds, but he has a ton more problems. I haven't really seen too many fighters put pressure on him, but when a guy like Vasily Lomachenko did, he does it in a different kind of way. He had a ton of issues with it. And yeah, don't get me wrong, Lomachenko's going to come with them different angles, shots from like different sides of the ring and do different things, more creative and things of that nature. But look, man, Regis is coming. And Regis is throwing heat at you, man. Like, this is going to be the hardest puncher he's ever fought.
by
And I'm
far.
not necessarily taking Regis. It's tough, but you're just saying that pretty much Devin is going to win it hands down. That's what you're saying, right?
I do think he wins it, but you bring up a lot of fair points. You're 100% right when you say. I think a lot of it is a motivation thing. You're fighting Danielito Zorrilla. Like, who cares? You know you could beat this guy, even not
Yep.
on your best night, and you did beat this guy not on your best night. Devin Haney's going to get your best night, so I respect that about a guy like Regis. I do expect him to come more correct than he did for Zorrilla. That's what fighters do a lot of times. Is sometimes they can fight up or down to the level of opposition. Eric Morales did that all the time, and then he'll turn it up a notch for the elite. But and then you mentioned Southpaw Lomachenko hit Devin, a lot, put pressure on him,
Mhm.
and Jojo Diaz was a Southpaw who had a lot of success against Devin too. But one thing those two guys did differently than Regis, and they're a lot smaller than Regis, and they don't punch nearly as hard as Regis, but they come in with that high guard, and that high guard kind of smothers Devin's jab a little bit. And
Mhm.
a lot of times when you put pressure on, you gotta pick those hands up. You could do this shit on the outside, but you gotta
Yeah.
pick them up a little bit. Even Floyd, when he fought Judah or Conor McGregor, picked the hands up to put pressure on. That's not what Regis does. Regis fights with that lead hand low. He does his 1950s moves. I like him. I like him. But he does his 1950s black and white moves, and he keeps that lead hand low. So he's not going to be smothering the jab with the same kind of style of pressure. Styles make fights. I think keeping that lead hand low on the outside could be an issue with Devin Haney, man.
I that is actually ironic because that's the one thing I'm hoping he doesn't do. Because, like you said, man, he leaves that lead hand low, and he kind of leaves his left hand up sometimes, but he has pretty good head movement, but it just doesn't put those hands up, man. And granted, Devin isn't going to hit him with every jab, but even if you just keep your hands up, you could deflect a lot of those shots, man. And we all know that Devin pretty much has like the best jab in boxing, and well, to me, he does anyways. And considering that his jab was really, really nullified against Lomachenko, I expect that jab to look even sharper against Regis. So it's if you think it's because I know you don't think that Devin is going to knock him out or anything like that.
I don't.
So
I
if
don't.
if you kind of had to like give me a scorecard, what are you thinking about 10-2, 9-3?
Yep. Nine
Wow. So,
three, 9-3. I think I said 9-3 on another fight. If Frank and Shakur, you asked me, and I
yeah.
said 9-3, 10-2. This is more 9-3, 8-4.
Mm.
But I
So
think 9-3 is the card. 17-11.
let me ask you this: do you think that Regis will give him a tougher fight than Lomachenko did?
No. No. And I think there's two factors in Devin Haney's corner going into this fight that are going to give him a boost in this performance. He's going up to 40. He's not melting himself down to 135 anymore. He's going to be hydrated and strong. I know some people might say he couldn't hit hard at 135. What makes you think he's going to hit, his punches are going to have more of an effect on bigger men? He'll be stronger at the weight, I think. And also he's that Lomachenko factor. Like Canelo when he went 12 with Floyd and he started getting better and better after that fight. I think Devin, you can expect between moving up to a more comfortable weight and coming off 12 rounds against a future Hall of Famer and Lomachenko and in what I think was the fight of the year so far, high speed chess. I think he's going to be more well educated against the Southpaw after going against Loma, and I think he's going to be stronger at 140.
2 points. One, I actually think the fight of the year so far has been Munguia versus Derevyanchenko. That fight was crazy to me. And number two, all right. So if you think Devin is going to be better because he fought Loma, great point. What happened to Tio, man? Lost his very next fight.
Ooh,
Didn't look sharp
ooh,
when he moved up to
ooh.
140 against Ocampo. Didn't look sharp when he and he
He stuck
knocked
around
down.
35 too long. Devin's not making that mistake.
Come on, brother. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, you're right. Because one Sandor Martin was at 140 long time after those. So yeah, you got me on that.
And I also remember that I saw on Twitter that you did like a interview a while ago with Devin. I don't even know how old he was, but he was super young. And even back then, he was just like 135 is hard for me to make. So he's just been able to like pick up these wins. But when compared to how Devin looks, like if Devin walked into my living room right now and compared to how he looks on fight night, I'd have been like, yo, these are like two different dudes, man. This is not the same guy.
Yeah, and again, if Regis gets into that mid range, gets past that jab, gets past the outside, and gets on the inside and the inside to mid range, it could be a problem for Devin. Devastating potential because the guy could really fucking crack Regis Prograis.
Exactly. And I just don't think
And
that
Devin
he's
gets hit with left hands by southpaws. He does.
and I just also don't think that Devin, not Devin, I also don't think that Regis is gonna be, deterred from coming straight forward, man. I really don't think so. The first few rounds is gonna be, it's gonna be difficult, man. The first few rounds for somebody fighting a boxer is always gonna be difficult, man. Like that's when their legs are working perfectly fine. That's when they're bouncing up and down on their toes. That's when they feeling good, man. But
That's when
once
Devin had
Regis,
the edge over Loma, those first 6 rounds. Right.
for sure. But once Regis gets to that body and starts landing a little bit of leather, man. And I'm not one of those guys that think Devin has a bad chin. Like everybody's exaggerating with that, man. Like he got caught with one good shot. He didn't go down. He did a little bit of a dance, yeah, but the dude is not chinny, man. He's never gone down. He's only been hurt one time. Do you think that his chin is a little bit suspect, or are you kind of on my side with that?
I think you could hurt him, but I agree with you that there's been too much made about his chin. He's not a Canelo or a Triple G. You could hurt him, but he hasn't gone down yet. So how can you say a guy is really chinny who hasn't been knocked down yet?
Yeah, for sure. So that's something I agree with. In terms of picking a winner, though, man, it's this fight is really, really 50-50 to me. Because I view Regis as the best guy at 140 pounds. I think he'll beat Subriel Matias. I really wish that fight was happening. Would you take him over Matias, by the way?
Yeah,
Or
I'm actually not as high on Matias as some people are. He's fun. He's really fun to watch. But even though he has all these knockouts, I don't think he's punch for punch that big a puncher. He's an accumulation guy who isn't really concerned about what's coming back. He doesn't really have defense. So yeah, I think Regis would definitely beat Matias. I think Gary Antoine Russell could beat Matias. I actually now I'll really get you, Hans. I think Rolly might be able to beat Matias because
listen, guys, I really enjoyed my time here, man. Ben, this is my letter of resignation. It, it was all good, man, but I gotta get out of here. You gotta chill, Sean. I don't know how much Rody just cashed after you to say that, but you gotta chill, man.
I do got love for Mr. Rolando Romero out here in Vegas. I won't lie. I do. The guy is someone I enjoy talking to. I won't lie to you.
Nah, Rolly's cool, man. Rolly shows me definitely a lot of love when he's down here in New York, man. So I mess with Rolly a lot. I love his team, but no, I don't think he beats Matias. But yeah, I do think that
I don't think
Regis
he beats Matias the way he looked against Barroso, but the way he looked against Tank, he could beat Matias.
is there like another time where you saw him look that good in a fight though? Against somebody that was at least decent. Don't bring up Avery Sparrow, man. Don't do it.
That was the one. That was the one. Anthony Yiggett?
This guy, man. You gotta chill. Man.
Did Keyshawn go the distance with Yiggett?
No, he stopped him.
Oh, see, I can't even say
Yeah,
Keyshawn went the distance with him, right? I can't even do that.
yeah, because I remember that because I remember like being at that fight. Wait, did he stop him? I feel like he did.
Chat. Did Keyshawn stop Yiggett?
I think he did.
I think he did. I think he
Yeah,
did.
I think he did. And I remember being at that fight, and he really, really bust him up badly. So yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he beat him. But yeah,
Okay, but the reason why I think Rolly could beat Matias is because as he's throwing all those accumulation punch, almost arm punches, but they hurt. But all Rolly would need, because punch for punch, I think Rolly hits harder than him. It's just Rolly don't throw nearly as many punches as Matias, not nearly as busy. But I think punch for punch, if Rolly could catch him in between all those combinations he's running and all, and bam, hit him with one of those, yank, one of those Rolly yank. I think he could, he could do it.
That was a good
But he
one,
can't
man.
be gun shy like he was with Barroso
For
Or else
sure,
he ain't
man.
beat nobody, you know. And I love Rolly, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great impersonation of the shot too, man. But yeah, I just don't think that it's kind of tough for me to say because then you would have to put Devin as maybe at least the number two guy at 140 pounds, right below Tio. So
Absolutely. That's the fight, man. Devin, I'm sure Eddie Hearn is doing his damnedest to get Devin to agree to two fights. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would imagine if Eddie Hearn is doing what's best for him, he's saying to himself, Devin, in all likelihood, you're going to beat Regis, and then what do I have left? You know, a 35-year-old former champion, and you take that green belt back to Arum, and you and Tio fight on ESPN pay-per-view. I need you to fight Richardson Hitchens. I need a two-fight deal. I need something out of this. And I don't think Devin and Bill would particularly want to go for that. So good luck to Eddie if he is trying to do that. Part of me wonders, is that part of the holdup at all? Is Eddie's trying to get two fights out of Devin and not just one? But if that is Eddie's plan, I don't want to see it. Richardson Hitchens is a good fight. It's not a bad fight. But I want Devin to grab this belt, go back to Bob, fight Tio on pay-per-view, and if you can win that fight, then it's time to go to PBC and make the Tank super fight.
that's I really love that Richardson Hitchens fight though, man. Like that one just made my eyebrows
Where
go
are
up a
you
little.
residing in right now, Hans?
Canarsie.
Which is in what borough?
Brooklyn, nigga.
And Richardson Hitchens is from where?
Brooklyn for sure. My bad, chat. But yeah, no. I really think that Richardson, and he trains out here too, and he was just training in Philadelphia actually, getting some rounds in with Boots. Heard about a few of those stories. Not going to talk about it too much, but yeah, he's a hell of a fighter, man. Like I've watched him spar Erickson Lubin out here as well in a gym down here in Williamsburg. So look, man, he's terrific, man. Would you give him the edge over Devin, or do you think Devin will be a little bit too much?
No,
Those are
I
two
wouldn't go
skilled
that
athletes.
far. I think I'm from Brooklyn too, so I got love for Richardson Hitchens too. But I like Richardson. I think he's been really turning the corner these last 3, 4, or 5 fights. I feel like the Kevin Johnson fight he had on Showbox, I covered that fight here in Vegas. That was a very close fight that Richardson won. I feel like since that fight, he's kind of been turning this corner, and ever since he moved up from 35 to 40, he's been looking stronger and better. He's putting it together. He's a
Yeah,
very formidable 140 pounder, but I think Devin is a real elite fighter who's at 24 is actually still getting better. So
yeah,
I like the fight. I actually think Richardson has a better chance than Regis because styles make fights and he's long and faster and younger and fresher. But so I feel like it'd be smart of Eddie Hearn to do everything he can to get a 2-fight deal, try to get Richardson a chance at Devin. But no, I would still pick Devin to win that fight. But I like Richardson.
no, that's a tough fight. It's a really tough fight, especially when you got a guy who's also a pure boxer, kind of standing right in front of you. That's probably has either as much skills as you or pretty much on the same level as you. You know what I mean? So I think that'll be a hell of a fight. It's if Richardson isn't able to get those fights, then it's kind of like, all right, where does he kind of go to get a belt? But that's neither here nor there. You know, that'll happen whenever it happens. But
Do you think Devin, Shakur, Tank, these guys who have all known Richardson since they were young, do you think they look at him like the little homie? Like they like him, but he's not really on their level?
man, that's a hell of a question, man. That's a hell of a question. Wow, that's a hell of a question. No, I don't think Shakur does. I don't think Shakur does. Devin might. Devin might. Tank maybe, but I don't think Shakur does. I think Shakur spent so much time with him, and I remember talking to Shakur maybe like last year or something like that, and he was just like the way Richardson looks. Like he said that, yo, I've been in the ring with like some of the champs at 140. Richardson will beat all those guys. You know what I mean? So I think he looks at Richardson like, no, he's an elite level talent. Devin might look at him like, nah, he's not on my level. But I think Shakur does, and I'm gonna take Shakur's word for it.
I like the fight though. I do like the fight. I obviously think Devin and Tio in a potential unification is much sexier fight. But
Yeah,
Richardson Hitchens Devin Haney's a pretty good fight too. So I wouldn't hate
yeah.
that fight.
I mean, I would love to see. I would actually love to see Tio versus Regis because at this point. T.O. might come back at before the end of the year. He might end up fighting who exactly?
Maybe Barboza after all this time. No, I think Barboza left Top Rank, right? So that's not happening.
He he did, but I mean, I did remember hearing Bob saying that they've been talking a little bit and things like that, or maybe he'll fight the other guy who used to be unified champ but lost to Josh.
Ramirez.
Yeah, maybe he could fight him in a decent fight, but I don't really want to see it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, Tiafimo and Devin. I would love to see that fight. We'll save that for another day, man. But
Sure.
let's say what's up to some people in the chat before we get out of here. Coda, thank you for hanging out throughout. Hectic Nasty, Angry Casual Fan. Angry Casual Fan says Hitchens is food for Matias. I'm not sure about that, Angry Casual Fan.
Absolutely not. I'm taking Richardson in that fight now.
So, who else? Angry Casual Fan also said Rolly by knockout. So, Ashley Schaefer, Kia, what's going on? Ashley, do you have an answer for this one? I'm not. Ashley wants to know David Adelaide, over there in Britain, against Wardley. I think is the who do you think wins that fight?
I'd probably take Wardley. I'd probably take Wardley.
I don't
He's
want
kind
to pretend to have watched a whole bunch of tape on both guys. I haven't.
Wardley, for some reason, I've watched enough tape on this guy. I don't know why, but he's kind of being groomed to not really be like one of those great heavyweight guys from Britain, but I kind of see him in a mold of what's the guy's name that won Clark Frazier, I believe his name. Is that the guy's
Yeah, the
name?
guy who beat Dave Allen over the
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's kind of like in that mode. I kind of see him kind of like in the mode of maybe like a future Dillian White kind of guy, maybe like a level below, but
top
he's
domestic competitor. Yeah,
yeah,
David
basically.
Adelaide, David Adelaide, sticking the
So
jab
yeah,
on
I think he's pretty
Wardley.
good.
He's a masterclass performer. Lawrence Okoli, David Adelaide.
I can't tell you how much I hate those accents, man. I hate them, brother. Hate them.
He's massive star, yeah. He's massive star in sport. Canelo and Anthony Joshua are the biggest global. I mean, fuck me, mate. Maybe in America, maybe Terence Crawford, who I think is pound for pound, personally. But when you talk about massive global superstar in sport, it's Canelo and AJ.
You've been spending way too many times late night talking to Eddie, man. Way too many. Please stop.
But I think that's about it, man. I have a great time doing these with you, Hans. Thank you for joining, man. If there's any other takes you want to get out of here, brother, before we call it a Friday.
Um, Nah, none that I could think of. September is kind of like a slow boxing month, kind of so to speak, before we get towards the end with the really big fight. So it's a little bit depressing. So yeah, not too many takes. Well, actually, I guess maybe one thing that I would like to ask you is, do you think that I'm pretty sure you're taking Richardson Hitchens to win, but do you think he'll have any issues with Jose Zepeda on the 23rd?
Yeah, no, he should he should have to figure some things out. Fighting a veteran like Zepeda, who's fought the best, he'll have to take his time and be patient and pick him apart. He can't try to get off too early. That'll give Zepeda a chance, who still has heavy hands, to hit him with something in an exchange. But I think if Richardson just takes his time behind his jab, is surgical with it, Jake. If he's surgical and patient early, he could start pelting him and beating him up later in the fight. But he can't start too fast. He can't start too fast. Even if he's getting off good shots, he can't get greedy early. I think he's got to be patient with the veteran, and he'll be all right.
Gotcha. I agree. Yep, definitely agree. But yep, other than that, not too much else going on. Definitely always appreciate jumping
I
on this
might I
with you,
might
man.
have to finally hold Fury accountable. Everyone else has been holding Fury accountable for over 12 months now, and I've been saying, "Come on, he talks, he does what he wants, he'll fight in Ghana, he'll get to Usyk and he'll beat him." And now I'm starting to be like, maybe he's just gonna duck Usyk after all, and I've been wrong all this time.
Yo, to be honest with you, man, I don't care for Tyson Fury at
You and
all.
everybody else apparently. I'm like the only
Yeah.
one who still kind of likes him.
Nah, man. Like this guy. I mean, look, I'm not even mad at the Ngannou fight. I'm gonna watch. It's gonna be interesting just to see both those guys in the ring, but brother, like you gotta fight some of these contenders. You gotta fight like some of these guys on the rise. Like fight Usyk, man. Like fight somebody else, man. It's really, really annoying. And then he's talking about, oh, I want to fight John Jones. Oh, maybe I'll fight Ngannou in the cage next. It's like, dog, and you know the WBC probably is never gonna strip this guy. He's gonna walk into the cage with WBC belt on his waist, with Mauricio Sulaiman walking right next to him, and Dana White on the other side. It's so annoying with this guy, man. Like I really wish they would strip him, but the WBC does whatever the hell they want. Jermell Charlo still hadn't been stripped, even though he had to fought in over 2.5 years. So that shit is
That
annoying, man.
Charlo
It's
case
really,
gives Fury an out. You could always just do a whataboutism about Charlo.
yeah, but no, you're right. I can't
No,
even
but the two wrongs don't make a right.
You're right, but with the WBC, it normally does. So it's weird stuff over there, man.
Man, yeah, it's getting disgraceful at this point, and I'm late. I'm like the last guy to find out at the party that this girl's been with everybody else. I thought I believed her when she. So that's kind of me with Tyson Fury right now. And his body looks terrible, bro. And I had someone on Twitter, my man Fern. He goes, well, his body never looks good. His body hasn't looked good since 2015. I pulled up some pictures from the second Wilder fight.
Yeah.
That second Wilder fight, I don't think we're ever seeing that Fury again, bro. That second fight, not even the first or the third. That second Wilder fight was peak Tyson Fury. He was in shape, and he had all his, gypsy tricks, the feints and all that, all the stuff, all the cute stuff that got him over Klitschko. But then Sugar Hill also added in that big man game, just fighting like a big man. That was the complete Fury. And yeah, he's still fat, but he had a lot of muscle on him. He was pretty solid that night. And now I'm thinking we're never going to see that version of Fury again.
Yeah, it's kind of like people kind of look at Tyson Fury and they're just like, I mean, the guy's right. Like he's never had like a peak physique looking body, but he looks pretty awful, man. Like when he didn't have that shirt on during that press conference, I was just like, yo, he definitely looks a lot bigger than like what I'm like kind of accustomed to seeing him. But it is what it is, man. He's probably not training that hard for this fight because he's probably pulling a Floyd Mayweather, where Floyd was just like, yo, I don't gotta
Yeah,
train
Floyd
every day
never
to
let
fight.
himself look anything like that, though.
For sure. But I just meant like from a training standpoint where he's just like, yo, I don't really gotta train. I don't gotta
Well,
get up
I
and
heard he
run.
only
I don't
got in
really.
3 good weeks, really, for that third Wilder fight, I heard.
Really?
Yeah, I heard there was a lot of bullshit going on. There was all, and this isn't bullshit, stuff going on with the birth of his daughter. That was reported in the media. Like we all knew that at the time, but I heard from people close to his camp that he really only got it in for 3 good weeks before that fight. And just look at his body. I mean, look at the difference in outcome. Wilder was much better, but Fury wasn't as good as he was in fight number 2.
Yeah, I actually had no idea that he only got in, well, quote unquote, only got in 3 good weeks. But look, man, Tyson, I mean, a lot of people are gonna say he's disgraceful and whatever, but look, man, he's making as much money as possible. So I just don't really I just don't enjoy like watching him talk or say anything. He lies so much. Like just the other day, he said that I'm really only fighting for the money, but like a few years before that, he was just like, I don't really care for the money. I'll donate all my money to such and such. And I'm not mad at it though. Like, listen, man, I'm always trying to get to the bag. But it's just when he talks, he lies, man. So I don't pay attention to it.
I still believe he's the best heavyweight in the world, but
He's not. But
okay.
yeah, he's not.
You think that day is past now? He's letting himself go too much?
Usyk will beat him. Usyk will beat him. And then after that fight, if that fight was to ever happen, the next guy who's gonna hold it down is Jala. You know what I'm
Jalalov.
saying? Yeah,
Jalalalalav. Jalalalalalalalav.
that guy. He's the guy who's gonna hold it down. He's the guy who's gonna beat Jared Anderson and anybody else, man. He's the real deal.
I'll let you close with the strong take, Hans. Thank you for bringing the heat today, brother. I'll see you next week.